So today we'll be talking about load cell. So what is a load cell? A load cell is a force gauge that consists of a transducer that is used to create an electrical signal whose magnitude is directly proportional to the force being measured. There are four types of load cells. They are pneumatic, hydraulic, strain gauge, and capacitance. A pneumatic load cell consists of an elastic diaphragm which is attached to a platform surface where the weight will be measured. There will be an air regulator which will limit the flow of air pressure to the system and a pressure gauge. Thus, when an object is placed on a pneumatic load cell, it uses pressurized air or gas to balance out the weight of the object. The word hydraulic should let us know that this load cell will work by using fluid, whether water or oil. These load cells are similar to pneumatic load cells, but instead of air, they use pressurized liquid. A hydraulic load cell consists of an elastic diaphragm, a piston with a loading platform on top of the diaphragm, oil or water that will be inside the piston, and a bottom pressure gauge. When the load is placed on the loading platform, the piston applies pressure to the liquid contained inside it. The pressure increase of the liquid is proportional to the applied force or weight. A strain gauge load cell is a transducer that changes in electrical resistance when under stress or strain. The electrical resistance is proportional to the stress or strain placed on the cell, making it easy to calibrate into an accurate measurement. The electrical resistance from the strain gauge is linear. Therefore, it can be converted into a force and then a weight if needed. A strain gauge load cell is made up of 4 strain gauges in Wheatstone bridge configuration. A Wheatstone bridge is an electrical circuit that measures unknown electrical resistance by balancing 2 legs of a bridge circuit, where one of the legs consists of unknown components. The Wheatstone bridge circuit provides incredibly accurate measurements. The strain gauges that are in the Wheatstone bridge are bonded onto a beam which deforms when weight is applied. The next type of load cell is the capacitive load cell, which work on the principle of capacitance, which is the ability of a system to store a charge. The load cell is made of 2 flat plates parallel to each other. The plates will have a current applied to them, and once the charge is stable, it gets stored between the plates. The amount of charge stored, which is the capacitance, depends on how large the gap between the plates is. When the load is placed on the plate, the gap shrinks, giving us a change in the capacitance, which can be calculated into a weight. Now let us look at some applications of load cells. Let us use a rice bag filling process. In this application, empty bags are loaded into a machine whose arms will swing down and pick up an empty bag and place it underneath a funnel. Above the funnel, there's a fuel bin that will dispense rice onto a conveyor belt with a built-in load cell in order to dispense the correct amount of rice into the bags. As the fuel bin is dispensing rice, the load cell is giving an analog input to a PLC, which is the current weight on the load cell. Once the load cell is reading a weight close to the full bag weight, the fuel bin will close to a trickle until the correct weight is determined. Once the load cell has a full bag weight on it, the conveyor will start dropping the rice into the funnel and down to the weighting bag. The bag will be sealed and removed from the machine so another empty bag can be loaded. Determining which load cell the application requires depends on how sensitive and accurate your application needs to be. Accuracy and sensitivity are very high with capacitive load cells. A strain gauge type of load cell will be the next in line when it comes to accuracy and sensitivity. While still useful in certain applications, pneumatic and hydraulic load cells will be the less sensitive and accurate types of load cells. So having seen what the load cell is and the types of load cell, guess the next word to be discussed in our A to Z challenge. As we'll be discussing later N. I'll see you in the next video. And please share and subscribe so as to get notifications on our next video.